Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Quick Break Games, and today we're talking Funko Fusion because online co-op has officially been added to the game. It is no longer in beta, so this is going to be sort of a review of what I think of it so far. Right now, all of the Jurassic World, Hot Fuzz, and Battlestar Galactica levels have online co-op. In other words, 15 of the game's 42 levels. All of the other worlds and levels should be getting co-op in the coming weeks. As of this recording, this is only available on the PC version, but it will be coming to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S literally any day now if it's not out already. I believe it's ready to go out on console, but the developers are just waiting on Microsoft and Sony to approve the update. So anyway, I got a group of folks from the official Funko Fusion Discord server to play some online co-op, and I'll just say up front, I think we all had a lot of fun. But there's definitely some problems and some improvements that I think need to be made, which I'll get into towards the end of the video. So how co-op works is you go to one of the co-op computer terminals that are found on each of the floors of the main hub. This will load you into the Funko Dome, which is like a co-op lobby, and here you can walk up to these pop boxes to invite anyone on your Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation friends list. There's no matchmaking, so you can't play with randoms. They'll need to be on your friends list. Additionally, you can just not invite anybody and play the new co-op mode solo. Also, unfortunately, crossplay is not supported, so you can only play with folks on the same console as you. The head of publishing at 1010 Games, Arthur Parsons, did mention back at San Diego Comic-Con in July that they would look at adding crossplay down the line, but that was before the co-op mode got delayed and it was before the game's launch, so who knows if they are still considering that. But anyway, co-op is sort of its own separate progression from the main single-player game, which some people may not like, but I'll explain why I think the developers did that a little bit later on in the video. But once you have all your players in the lobby, you can walk up to this terminal, and here you can select which level you want to play. Again, as of right now, only 3 of the 7 main worlds are supported. None of the cameo levels are supported either yet, but you can use characters from any world that you want. So, for example, Masters of the Universe doesn't support co-op yet, but you can still play as any of the Masters of the Universe characters in these levels, so that's good. But yeah, you can pretty much just play the levels with your friends. There are a few differences compared to the single player game though. For one, the amount of enemies does scale depending on how many players you have in your game. There is a system where you can revive each other if you die. Also, the medic from Team Fortress 2 has the ability to heal other players, so there's definitely some strategy involved with maybe having 1 or 2 players on your team play as him to heal up the rest of your squad. The major change, though, is that most of the collectibles, like the silver crowns, are now replaced with a new currency called Funkoins. Blue Funkoins are worth 1, and purple ones are worth 5. And these are scattered throughout the levels, as well as inside silver chests and things like that. But what do these do? Well, if you go to the character select screen, pretty much every character in the game, except for the DLC ones, have a new variant that you can purchase with Funcoins. For the characters from worlds that currently support online co-op, they have 2 new Funcoin variants. So I imagine every main character is going to have 2 by the time every world supports co-op. But yeah, I'd say grinding for Funcoins to get these new variants is pretty much the main reason to play co-op in terms of progression. Obviously, besides the fact that, it's just fun to play co-op with your friends. Now, when you look at the co-op level select screen, there's this weird crown and locked hourglass icons towards the bottom. We have no idea what these are for. The developers haven't mentioned these at all in any of the patch notes, but we tried to find out in our play session here. So when you complete a level, there's a time trial time limit for each level that you can try to beat the level in under that time. And let me tell you, these time limits are strict. You and your team really have to be knowledgeable of the level and know how to do all the puzzles to beat those times, which I really like. It really challenges you. But when you have a challenge in a game, you'd expect at least a decent reward, right? This is where we get into some of the problems with the co-op mode. So we thought maybe if we beat the time limit in all 5 levels of a world, maybe that will unlock that hourglass icon at the bottom of the level select screen. Since, it's an hourglass, time limit, makes sense. Well, we grinded through the 5 Jurassic World levels and managed to beat them all within the time limits, and we got absolutely nothing for doing it. The hourglass icon and crown icons were still locked, so I have no idea what those are for. Maybe something that's going to be added later in the game, I'm not sure. It would also be nice for the game to display what the time limit goal is before you start the level, because as of right now, you don't really see the time that you're trying to beat until after the level's already completed. Plus, it would be good if the game actually had a timer in the corner of the screen as you're playing the level, just to know if you're kind of on track or not. And in terms of the rewards, even on an individual level basis, I thought you'd at least get a large Funcoin reward for beating the time limit, but no, it literally gives you a single Funcoin for every second that you're under the time limit. And again, these times are super challenging, so you're typically only going to be under the time limit by a few seconds. So the reward is absolutely trash when you're only getting like a few Funcoins for each level. So if you want Funcoins, which is probably going to be the main reason people are grinding the co-op mode, it's definitely much better to do the opposite and play the levels slowly, you know, going around, solving all the puzzles, opening chests, and you're going to get a lot more Funcoin that way. Beating the time trials is super challenging, just for very little to zero reward. Another big issue that I encountered is you can't tell who's who. There really needs to be a username indicator above all of your friends' heads. You can see your friends' health bars at the side of the screen, which is great, but your co-op buddies easily blend into the levels, and it can be difficult to distinguish them from the NPCs. For example, on Battlestar Galactica, I was playing as the Cylon, and of course there are a bunch of Cylon enemies in those levels, so my friends had no way of telling me apart from the standard enemies. And there is friendly fire too, so you're going to be like shooting at each other during this as well. So 1010 Games, please add username icons above each player's head. That would be a massive improvement. But going back to the time trials, if you played the single player game, you'll know that there's a handful of escort missions in the game. As of right now, they seem to be a little buggy in co-op. In both Pyro Gyro from Jurassic World and the Sound of Cylons from Battlestar Galactica, the NPC character that we're escorting would just stop moving at times for no reason, which would completely ruin our time trial run. We eventually restarted a couple times and got it done, but it seems like the NPC maybe gets confused on which player to follow or something, so I think the developers maybe need to look at the escort mission AI there. It's just very frustrating doing the time trials when the NPCs aren't cooperating, but then again, there's really zero incentive to do the time trials in the first place right now. Additionally, we did have some various smaller bugs like getting stuck inside the pop box in the Funko Dome lobby, or the pop box characters becoming invisible, or one of my friends being glitched through the floor at the end of the first level of Battlestar Galactica. Also, some of my friends reported having lag issues. I personally did not experience any lag, but I was the host, so maybe that's why. I'm also using sort of like the optimal setup, being hardwired into my router and everything, so who knows there. So overall, the co-op mode is fun, but I think it has the potential to be so much better. If they make some key changes, especially regarding the time trial stuff and adding crossplay, I imagine adding usernames above players' heads would be a fairly easy thing to implement that would just greatly improve the mode. In regards to this being a separate mode or progression from the main game, I think this is a good thing since a lot of players have already played the single player game, and the Funcoin stuff really provides incentive to play the levels all over again. However, I do have a theory that this was not how co-op was originally intended to be when they were developing the game. For example, to unlock co-op, you have to beat the opening tutorial first and then play through one level, and then the co-op terminals will be available in the main hub. The opening cutscene from the tutorial shows 4 players walking into the top floor of the Wonderworks factory, which doesn't really make sense since that opening tutorial can only ever be played solo. And really every cutscene in the game is designed around having 4 players, but that opening one kind of stands out since I don't think that opening is ever going to be able to be played in co-op. So I think they sort of shifted the original design of how co-op works. I'm not completely sure though. Also, it's kind of unclear if the last-gen versions are getting co-op support, the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. Those are releasing digitally on December 6th, and 1010 hasn't specifically mentioned those for co-op, so if you're planning on buying either of those versions, just be cautious that there's a chance those won't have co-op support at all. But anyway guys, that's my thoughts on Funko Fusion's new co-op mode. It can be a lot of fun goofing around with friends, and trying to beat the time trials is fun, but they really need to implement some changes for it to reach its true potential. Alright, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you guys next time here on Quick Break Games.